Hello and welcome. So today we have a very special project. This here belongs to a good friend of mine. You can follow him on Instagram at RodsReelsRCs. He's got some pretty cool pics and videos on there that he loads from different RCs. A lot of really cool crawler stuff. So right now I'm working on this. This originally started off as a two-wheel drive built chassis for a two-wheel drive Slash. And then it's been upgraded with a few little things. You have the RPM bumper, for example. This was originally built with the aluminum steering bell crank instead of the plastic ones, just to eliminate the servo saver. But we are actually going to do a monster drag build. And I'm calling it a monster drag build because we're going to be using monster truck Bandito on-road tires for the rear. And in order to do this, now many of you have already heard of the no prep drag cars, and those are also based off the Traxxas chassis, many of them. Some other companies have come out with their versions, such as Team Associated with the DR10. But we decided to do something different and just keep a truck theme. So drag cars generally have, the bigger, fatter tires in the rear and then the smaller tires in the front. So we said, hey, let's do the short course tires in the front and just do some monster tires in the rear. So we're going to build this stuff. There's a few things I'm going to build for him. Thank goodness he let me do this for my channel. But there are some things we're going to have to correct, and I'm going to show you, especially in the rear. And one of those tips is going to apply to all Traxxas two-wheel drive vehicles that use this style transmission. But right now we're going to do the servo. So in this build, we're going to have a Savox 1257 servo. So this is the servo that we're going with today. We could have used the factory Traxxas servo. The only problem is, since we don't have a servo saver, those plastic gears would just break. Now, normally on a servo, you want to run power through it. I already ran power through it to find its neutral position, because on a Traxxas Slash, you want this to be 90 degrees. So you want this to be perpendicular, the arm. So this is already set. This is already tight. Now I just need this screw here. So some of these items were already prepped, and then some of them we're doing here. So all we need to do, if you've assembled one of these, there's a little hole in here. That's where the servo wire goes through, and the orientation, this horn's going to go up, so I will be mounting this way on here. Let me just give you the plate orientation. This servo will go here, so let me go ahead and do that. And I'm going to need my 2mm driver for this one. This is why you need 3 hands sometimes. Alright. And the servo is going to go on the top holes here on the bottom chassis plate. You really want, for this build, you can do it with a high center of gravity chassis, but don't. Just get a low center of gravity chassis, so get an LCG. If you go with the HCG, I mean, out of the box on 3S, if you're running the Pinion system, you will be wheeling left and right. Even on 2S, you will be doing wheelies because the center of mass is so high up, it's very easy for it to flip it. If you go with a low center of gravity chassis, it stops doing the wheelies on 2S, and then 3S, in order to do wheelies, you need a lot of traction. So for this build, because we're going to be running some monster power, as you're going to see later, you really want low CG. If not, you're not going to go anywhere. You're just going to be doing wheelies. Alright, so that one's there. Let's do this one. Servo's almost on. Now, not all of these screws are the factory screws. As I mentioned before, this started off as a build, which is why you will notice that it has some aluminum upgrades as well as some RPM upgrades, which I will be mentioning. But first thing, servo. All right, now I'm going to go through all the screws. All right, perfect. So the servo, like I mentioned, will be 90 degrees. Now the next thing to do is just run the wire through that little hole, and I'm going to pull most of the excess out. I'm going to set the plate down. So it's going to come out through here. That's the only gap, the only hole there is. And then this should just clip on. And that's it. Now I'm going to put the screws. He didn't have the actual screws that go on here, so I'm going to use my 2.5mm driver. So these are the actual screws. So I'm going to put these here. All right, now if you have a similar situation where, let's just say you misplaced the screws here, or you were doing a build and you were just using the screws that you have, just as long as they're the correct length. So you'll notice this one is not a countersunk head. It will work, it's only one of them. I'm gonna put this one in the center because the other two screws are countersunk. And on these, I always recommend you put the center screw in first. Don't tighten all the way. And then go for the side ones. Now the countersunk screws will be what align the plate. That's one of the advantages of this shape here, this countersinking. It's like a cone shape, so it will adjust the plate. Normally that center one would have aligned it, so here I'm just going to drive them in little by little. You don't have to be so careful, to be honest, but I'd rather be. I mean, keep in mind that it's not my car. If it's my car, I want it to be done right. And if it's not my car, I definitely want it to be done right. And the reason why is I'm putting my name on it. Okay, I guess technically it has his. But that's fine. It says at Rods Reels RCs instead of at Telecomando. But whatever, you get it. Let's see, I'm going to put a little dab. So now we need to install the arm. So Loctite, always use Loctite if you're going metal on metal. And on here, this is all, there's only one hole. I'm going to go in this one here. So I'm going to set it here. Actually, let me do it this way. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is so that I can move the wheels to give me the correct distance. It's a lot easier to install the arm on the servo. The reason why is if I do it here, right, the arm moves. That's the reason why. But anyway, once you start it, doesn't matter. Just drive in and then hold the arm, hold the servo, and then tighten, and there we go. All right, so our steering is set, our servo is on. It's perpendicular, that looks pretty straight, and we can just use the trim later on, or adjust the toe ins, toe outs. We'll measure those once everything's done. Good, so that is it. Now, the next step here is if you do not have one of these PureTech Velcro systems for battery, get one. And the reason why is this here was running 6S batteries, so the factory tie doesn't work, but we have also run 3S batteries on these things, actually the Traxxas 3S batteries, and I lost one. And when I mean I lost one, I mean the pin flew out, the strap flew out, the battery flew out, hit, tumble, damaged the battery. I lost a 3S Traxxas batteries, and those are not inexpensive to replace. They're pretty pricey. So this is actually a lot better. It actually holds very well. The adhesive on the Velcro is fabulous. But if you don't have one of these, invest in one of these. All right, so we are finished with this. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and for the body mounts, he wants me to install these Proline adjustable body mounts. And I do recommend these. They're very good. So they're made by Proline. And you have the front and the rear. So now we're going to go ahead and install them. Now this truck already has the GTR shocks. If you don't have GTR shocks on your Traxxas Slash, Bandit, or Rustler, get the GTR shocks. Do not keep those plastic shocks that come in the box. There's going to be a video as to why. This here, the screw will just go through the face of the shock. And remember, there's two sides to the shock. There's this large flat side and then the small side. The small side is the part that connects to the body. The large one is the one that holds the screw. So the screw goes in this way. So if you haven't turned around, just twist it and turn it back around. So it should go this way. And then usually what I like doing is just aligning it here first, and just do one. And then once you do this, line it up with the actual shock tower. And once you align that hole with the shock tower, then you can begin the install. All right, and actually it's better if I use the driver, then I can hold it with the driver. All right, perfect. All right, and there's the screw. There we go. And oops. All right, we'll get this one. It's kind of tedious, but just be patient. There we go. All right. Da, 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 da. So one of the things that you need to work on when you're doing the front is if you allow the wheel to droop too much, it will pull the screw down. And as you can see, it goes in at an angle, top to bottom, it goes in this way. So if it droops down, it'll sort of flatten the screw and then it won't go in. So that's why I was putting the tire here on the table to push the tire up so that it would push the shock up, the little strut there. So now that it's there, I'm gonna get it close, not fully tightened. And now I can just do the second one. And because the first one is already there, the second one shouldn't be that complicated. And here, see, I'm holding it here, and then I'm just lifting. And the reason why I am lifting, let me see if you can get a better view here, is to move the shock to the position where I want it. So the shock tower is there, so I have to lift and move this one, and that's how I get it to the position that it needs to be. All right, so that being said, let's go ahead and line it up. It's easier if we just put it here first. Good. Now we'll go over here. Perfect. And that's it. All right, so now I'm going to tighten this one, then I'll go back to the other one. And there. All right, good. So we now have our Proline front shock tower. The other thing too is that notice the orientation. That's something to keep in mind. If you were to mount this backwards, your shock tower would be kind of doing this. So instead of being straight up and down, it would be sort of at an angle. Actually, it would be pointing back. It would be toward the rear, and that's how you would know it's wrong. But just make sure Proline is facing the front of the car, right? So it's going down as that, up is here as far as the letters are concerned. All right, so we have completed that install. Now, a quick note, the receiver box was mounted up here, and the reason for that is so we could mill this out. So we actually milled this out, and the reason why is we're probably going to be putting 2 3S shorty packs, or just the little small packs, for example, for crawlers, and then we're just going to run them in series so that we can get 6S out of the system. All right, good. Now the front end is completely built, so that was easy. Now we're going to work on the rear end, and this is where I'm going to give you a few pointers. So my buddy picked up this transmission. This one here is by HR, so Hot Racing, and it's pretty good. I mean, it looks good. It's aluminum, has its heat sinks. So the good thing about that is, as he runs 6S, which he will, it should dissipate the heat a lot better out of the transmission. He also has a mod 0.8 spur, and this is a metal spur. He's going to be running a metal pinion. Now, one of the things though is I usually do not run metal on metal, but this is just for speed runs. It'll be fine. He does have the stock clutch. It's going to be super cool to watch what happens to that clutch. He's going to have to upgrade that, but that'll be for another video. So that being said, he wants to keep it the way it is now. But one of the things to notice is when this was originally built, I did not build it, somebody else built it. Notice this arm. This arm says L. This is left, and this is right. Okay, these are backwards. Because this is the right side, this is the left side. So I need to flip these around. So that's step number 1. So I do have to correct this, and it's fine, that's why I have it. Now something else that I'm going to mention as well is with Traxxas two-wheel drive vehicles that use this type of setup, Rustler, Bandit, let's see, what am I missing? Rustler, Bandit, Slash, I think that's it. One of the things too that you want to mind is the direction of these pins that I am removing. And I will talk about them shortly. All right, here we go. So, and these actually go over here. Although I can see why. Fascinating. Okay, I see why he did it. Or not sure who did it. Alright, so this goes here, and this is supposed to go here. But it doesn't fit. Alright. That's a bit of a problem. So these are labeled wrong. This says right, this is right. Unless they go this way. And they do go this way. Ah, that's why. Alright, so these will go this way. So one of the things to keep in mind with these is these, see this little portion there? This actually goes here. Oh no, they go over here. So that goes there. See, right, it's just gonna go in there. And then left, this is just gonna go in here. And that's it. Right, so keep in mind that there's always a right side and a left side. Just like you have a right hand, it doesn't matter if I'm standing in front of you or behind you looking at you, your right hand is still your right hand, even though it might be on my left side. It's the same thing with vehicles. Now, something to keep in mind. Traxxas vehicles, all the pins on the right side should go rear to front. Out of the factory, they all come the same direction. And they come, if I'm not mistaken, they all come front to back. The problem with it is they will back out. So you're going to have screws that will back out, and then you're going to take an impact and you're going to break an arm because only half of the arm, one side of the arm is holding on, the other side is not. Okay, that was really. So again, If it's at the right side, go rear to front. Right? So these two are rear to front. If it's the left side, go front to rear. That way they don't back out. All right, here we go. So now we're just going to install this one. And perfect. All right, we're going to bring this one in. There we go. There we go. And there's just these little pins that are in there. If you can see them on the, yeah, there they are. So there's one, there's two. And so those are just little pilot pins, and they go in there, in those two little holes. And you just mount them there, and that is it. Perfect. All right, so now this is corrected, and we can go ahead and mount this to the rear of the truck. And so this is just going to key in place. Remember, orientation, front, rear. That's the rear, front. All right. So once it's here, I'm just going to hold it. I'm going to turn it. This fell out. Not a big deal. I'm actually going to secure the transmission first with the rear ones. And I'm going to be using these stainless steel screws that my buddy got. He just bought this whole set, the original RC screws with the Z. And it's just an assortment of screws that you can get. So that's what we're going to be using here. And I need my 2mm. And as always, use quality tools. Now this, actually, I should use thread lock. Let me use thread lock. It's on video, so he knows what I did. There we go. Right. And as always, if you're threading into metal, always use thread lock. Unless for some reason specified otherwise, just use thread lock. There's different types. This I think came out of my Techno kit, one of them. So most kits will come with it. If not, just remember Loctite brand thread lock is a very good brand, but make sure you use the blue stuff. Do not use the red stuff. When you do have to do maintenance and remove screws, it will be a pain, a massive pain to remove those screws. All right, so now we can do the other ones. That's just a bubble. Oh, there it goes. And that's how you should work on a mat. And I'm going to line this guy up again. There we go. The nice thing about these parts is they key in, so it makes installing a lot easier. Just the fit and finish of them is very nice. So that one is close, but it's not fully in. And that's what I want. And the reason why is sometimes if you tighten the screw, for example, if you were to tighten this all the way, it may twist the arm enough to where you cannot get the other screw in. This is why you want to get the screws lined up, and then you want to start tightening everything all the way. All right, so now that this one is in, I'll tighten that one, and then I'll tighten the rear one. And I'm going to do the same thing for this one. I'll start off with the rear, tighten the front, and then I'll do the rear. So first I want to line this guy up. All right, there we go, perfect. So that's keyed in. And there we go. So I'll start off the rear. There we go. we go, that is tight. And do not over tighten for a variety of reasons. You don't want to strip the screws off of the aluminum. Sorry, the threads off of the aluminum. I'm going to tighten the rear. That's one. Now these are stainless screws, so I'm not worried about breaking them. The aluminum, that's the problem. The aluminum will break before the screws. The other thing too is you do not want to put excess pressure on the chassis. This is plastic, so you can actually put so much pressure that once you take a big hit, it'll just break a nice little neat hole in there, and then you have nowhere to tighten unless you use a big giant washer. But that is it. So our rear is installed, and again, notice the orientation. So everything on the right side is rear to front. Everything on the left side is front to rear, front to rear. That's the way this should be installed. And I didn't put this in the video, but it's the same thing in the front. I did the same thing in the front. So right side, rear to front, other side, front to rear. That way those screws do not back out. That's how you solve that problem. All right, so this is installed. Now I just have to mount the rear shock tower, which is again Proline adjustable shock tower. And this one is going to go, the lettering is going to go the opposite direction. So the lettering is going to go this way. All right, here we go. So for this one, let's see, 2mm. Looks like a 2mm. Yep, 2mm. I'm just going to get them close. Okay, there, and there, and there. It's just easier if you get the screws close to the edge first. There we go. And now I'm just going to line them up with those holes there. The other nice thing about stainless steel, other than they're more weather resistant, is that they are easier to see, especially because many RCs have so much black plastic. So it's somewhat nice. Right, so that is the rear mount. So if you already have a Slash and the Slash already has all the RPM parts, this one already had all the RPM arms, and it had the Traxxas aluminum components that you desperately need on a Traxxas vehicle, you can just build one of these monster drag cars, which is just a short course truck with monster wheels in the rear, a 1/8 scale system, electronic system. So that's the other important thing. You will not be running a 540 system on here. But there we go. So now we have the rear. We will adjust these later. But this is it. So we have the rear end complete. Now that we have the rear end complete, we have to fit the rest of our electronics, and we're going to start. I'm going to start by mentioning this. There was a hole that was drilled previously here. That one I had actually drilled long ago, and that was to run Castle Electronics, because through this wire sometimes the wires will not fit, so you just need another hole to send another wire, because the ESC mounts over here. Now here we're going to be using the Mamba Monster X. I mean, the red paint came off, but this is a Mamba Monster X. And we actually put Velcro. So this has Velcro here, and the reason why is this will be Velcroed right here. Now, this will be doing speed runs. Well, it's just drag racing. So we're not really concerned about heat because it won't be doing it for very, very long. So it's just going to fit here for now. And I'm going to place it here. We're probably going to tie this Velcro in a different way later. But for now, we'll just leave it there. And that is it. So that's where this is going to go. As I mentioned, there's going to be 2 shorty packs, 2 little small packs, 3S. run in series to give us our 6S that we need for our Mama Monster. Now this wire here has to go all the way to the receiver box. One of the things I do like about the Castle ESCs is that the battery wire for the fan is right here. I mean, all 4 ribbons are attached and then they separate here. This is your channel 2, and then this goes into your battery channel. All right, so that is there. Now we're going to do the motor. For the motor, like I mentioned, it's a 1/8 scale system, so we're using a 1515 2200 kV, which is really what you want to be running. You can do a 1515 lower kV, but to be honest, given the size and weight of the system, go with a higher kV. You're going to be wishing you had more kV later on. The reason why is on another vehicle we're running a system that's either 1800 or 1900, and we just need kV because we're limited to the spur and pinion that we can run. But this is what we're... Now I don't have the pinion, so we're just going to install the motor. The main thing is the wires, how we're going to run these. Alright, so here we go. So one screw is going to go in here and another one goes in here. This is the one that determines your mesh, the bottom one. Now let's see. So we will be using that one there. And these, we're going to need a little bit of thread lock, so let me just leave the truck there and apply the thread lock. Now, oh, this one already has some, so it's just the one. Alright, perfect. And I'm going to need my 2mm driver. This one will be my top screw. So here, I generally just set the motor and I look at the holes and try to see where they're going to fit. So I'm definitely going to use this one here. So out of those 2 screws, I'm going to use the lower of the 2. And then just want to get this one close, but I don't want to tighten it the whole way. So there's the screw right in there. And there will be a little bit of play, but not much. All right, there we go. More. There we go. Back it out. There we go. All right, perfect. So this way I can spin it. Oh, I'm gonna need a little more. All right, perfect. All right. And now I'm gonna go ahead and input this one. I may actually need to move it to that hole. Alright, not sure if the camera will show. Let me see. Alright, let's see if the camera will show it. Alright, so that's one of the screws, that's this one, so I may have to move this one over there. Let me just try it out. Go ahead and move this one, and that may give us the amount that we need. Now he has a 55 tooth spur here. To be honest, I think that's way too big, but we will see if it works out depending on the pinion that he will be running. And this is perfect. Actually, so you want to use the top screw. So the top screw hole. So this one's going to be for the smaller cans, probably. Or I'm not sure, different size. You want to go for this top one. So install it on this top one up here. And then notice that that is going to follow that guide. And as you can see, you're going to be limited to the size pinion, which is why I'm going to recommend that he goes with something smaller. Maybe a 42 would be a good size. I think they make 42s. But let me just put that set screw right there. Well, it's just a regular screw. It's not an actual set screw like an oppressor, but it's the screw that sets the motor in place, which is why I called it a set screw. And here we go. So that will be in there. That is going in nicely, no trouble or anything. And I'm not going to tighten this the whole way. So I will be talking to my buddy Rod. Again, you can follow him at Rod's Reels RCs about getting a smaller spur, possibly. He's probably going to want to run it with just whatever pinion he has, and then we'll go from there. But he may want to get a smaller spur. Definitely a different clutch. Alright, so that's it. There's the motor. So the motor is on the motor mount. That just fits nicely. That's the other thing too that I like about this hot racing transmission, or even the Proline transmissions. They have this aluminum plate which helps dissipate heat. But the other thing too is it doesn't have that shield or guard over here that's plastic like the other Traxxas vehicles have. So it just more air can hit the fan. Sorry, hit these heatsink fins here. All right. So now we're going to wire it up. And for these wires, we want to measure the length. So this is the one that's coming, this is the one furthest away, which is over here. This is going to be a shorter one, in essence, if you think about it. So we're going to run this through that hole that was drilled in the bottom. So this one's going to come in through here. And this is C. This is C. So we need to make sure that we plug it into C, which is this one right over here. Just remove the ESC. It'll be a lot easier. Oh, it was all the way. Oh, that's it. There we go. That Velcro really holds it nicely, as you can see. I mean, there we go. All right. So now we have B, and B I'm just going to run up here through the top. This is B. Perfect. The wires are snug, good. And then A is going to go through the top as well. And this is A. There we go. All right. So we have A, B, C. Everything's wired. And you want to make sure, this is going to be running censored, so you want to make sure A matches A, B matches B, C matches C. If we were not running this censored, you just switch the direction of the wires until you get the rotation that you want. But here, you need to do this, and then you have to program the ESC to either go clockwise or counterclockwise. Now the sensor wire, we actually just ran through this gap. So there it is. And that's it. So that is all set up. Now, what I need to do is install his receiver. And his receiver is a Fly Sky receiver. Here we go. All right. I'm not going to worry about this. And this is receiver box. Huh. Okay. Actually, I'm gonna put this here. It's easier to do it this way. All right. So we're just gonna need a little bit of double stick tape and a little bit of alcohol. Alcohol's for cleaning. All right, there we go. All right, good. All right, now we can place this here. And once it's dry, see how that's dry? Now I can apply my double stick tape. We're actually just using regular 3M. There's different brands out there. I just happen to have a large roll of it. You can get a really big roll for about $15. It'll last you quite a while. we go. When you're applying the double-sided tape, make sure it is not really, really cold. It adheres better if it's room temperature. What if the room is incredibly cold? Isn't that room temperature? Yeah. What is room temperature? It's the temperature of the room. You know what I mean, right? 15, 17 degrees Celsius, or 70, 75 degrees Fahrenheit, or warmer. All right, perfect. So now, let's see, the receiver box. What is the antenna? Okay, so the antenna has to come out through there. How long are these wires? Alright, so it's better that I have this on this side. Well, the light's not going to match no matter what. So I was trying to match the little light to this over here, but it's not going to work. But if I match these two buttons to program to this little gap here, that'll work. And that'll just make it easier for just in the future, pairing it, doing things like that. All right, here we go. So I'm gonna mount it, and I'm just gonna set this here. Yep, I can view them. So the only thing I did is I just placed this on top to make sure I could see those two, the little light and the button for programming, and I can. So I'm just gonna press down, apply a little pressure, and that is it. So that is there. And now I need to open up the top of the receiver box, 2mm. So you want to take the small little cover out, and the reason why is this is where all your wires are going to run through. Now he's not going to be running this in water, so I'm not going to worry about using some type of jelly, but you would probably want to run some petroleum jelly around here and here if you were planning on submerging this or running it through water. But this one is not. And we're going to place these. All right, perfect. And the servo, which is an incredibly long wire. For the system. All right, here we go. So remember, this is the bottom of the receiver, right? That's the bottom. So the little metal tabs go up. So it's going to go black, red, orange, or orange, red, black. Well, it looks kind of brown. But if you were running black, red, white, that would be the order. Black, red, white, white, red, black. And this is going to go servo channel 1. And that's it. And then the other one is going to go in channel 2. And the same thing, same orientation. And that is it. Now, I don't know if he wants the fan plugged in or not. I'm going to leave it off. He's not going to need it for 2 or 3 runs. Well, you know what? I'm going to plug it. All right, here we go. And then you could go ahead and do that. This will be easier. Instead of mashing all the wires inside, because the receiver's the servo wire is so big. Here, maybe I can curl it up. Hold on. Alright, oh, that'll work. Alright, let me just take the weather stripping out. In so you don't pinch them, and that's it. Everything lines up. Nice. Take out some servo wire. a servo wire, just a little bit of slack. This is fine the way it is. All right, so now I just need 2 screws that go in there, and that's it. Let's see if these work. They should. Perfect. And any 2 screws that fit will work. I found countersunk screws. I didn't want countersunk screws, I wanted the regular screws, but these will work. And I also found 2 pinions. I didn't realize Buddy Rod had included them. They were in the box with the screws. So I will be finishing up the install for him. Except for the Velcro here for the batteries. Alright, clear the path. Perfect, so we can still see inside for programming. Now I'm just going to put the little block there. Alright, good. And one more thing to go. Now here, if you actually look carefully, there's a small little tab. That's where the antenna wire goes through. And then the larger ones, that's where the other wires go through. So, that being said, let me set the wires in. And we'll put the little cap on. There we go, so electronics are there. I don't know why he has all this plumbing. It's probably for a type of battery. You generally don't want all of this plumbing. I mean, it looks like he has a T-style connector similar to Dean's connector to an, looks like an EC5. And then 5mm connector over here. Oh no, this is 6.5. Yeah, this looks like a 6.5. So I have no idea. I'm gonna have to ask him what type of plumbing he wants here, because shouldn't be running this many. But anyway, they're there, so just ignore this for now. Although some of you may want to comment on comment below about that. All right, so we are almost there. Almost there. One of the things that we need now is we need to secure this part here. We have 2 screws. Then we're going to put a pinion on, and I'm going to see which one fits. Hopefully the larger one fits. And then after that we're going to mount the wheels. I'm going to show you which wheels we are going with. Alright, so the rear is fully mounted. Let's go ahead and do this now. I'm really hoping to be able to fit this one. This is the larger of the 2 pinion gears that I found. The small one is an 11 tooth, way too small. The larger one's a 16. Given that this is a 58 and he's going to be running 6S, probably wants a larger one. But we will see. Let's try the 16. Here's for hoping. And with these Traxxas, you want to mount it this way. Right, so the set screw is going to be on the outside. That's going to be 1.5. Right, so 1.5, and this looks like it already had thread lock on it. Yeah, he definitely needs a larger one. Alright, good. And there we go. So the other one, we'll just put away. So this is a 16. To be honest, he should be maybe at a 22, but we'll figure it out. So now I'm going to do the mesh. Now, there's a variety of things for the mesh. We're steel on steel. You do not want it all the way tight. See how there's no play? You are just going to destroy your pinion and your spur. Pinion and spur, especially because they're both metal. So you actually want a slight little gap, and you want, if you can hear that, that's a little bit of play. Something else that you can do, and I've mentioned this in other videos, is grab a little piece of paper. Any binder paper will work. And then what you do is, say you open this up, stick the paper in there. You don't have to open it up really. As long as you stick it between the teeth and then just turn the spur. Notice how I'm turning the spur. I don't want to get my finger stuck there in between. But you turn it and it's going to turn it into a little accordion. And then just turn it back. Paper's going to look something like that. It's just going to have a bunch of little teeth. It's going to feel like an accordion. And okay, this one actually I'm going to have to fold the paper in half. So printer paper or copy paper may be a better option. So you just place the paper. Once you place the paper there, just turn the spur and then just run the paper through. And that is it. It's there. And that's it. So that is all you need to do. Oops. For your mesh. So now I just need to tighten this. I'm doing that on purpose so you can hear. All right. Here we go. So this is going to be my 2mm. Now you can tighten this one, the one that sets the motor. When you tighten, just try to hold the motor, because as you twist the screw, it's going to want to shift the motor either front or back. In this case, it's going to try to shift it to the rear. And then we can tighten the top. Check the mesh again. Looks good. Looks good, sounds good. I mean, at some point you'll be able to just eyeball it, listen to it, and do it. But for now, just use a piece of paper, fold it in half. Copy paper is better. All right, and now the final step before the body and the batteries. So in order to create this monster drag car, you're going to need some monster tires. And the monster tires selected for this are these Bandito MT for monster truck. And these are made by Traxxas. Now this happens to be the C2 compound. There's also a C3. It just depends on the compound, if you want softer compound or harder compound. But these will do for our weather, and these are bead locked, so I do recommend you get bead lock wheels. So you see the rim here has little screws. That's because the rim holds the bead. Now really quick, and I've said this in another video, this is the tire. This is the wheel. So we have bead lock wheels. This little thing outside, that's the rim. These are not rims, these are wheels. This is the rim. All right, so that aside, I've already explained in another video as to why people call wheels rims. Anyway, I'll do it again. So now in modern cars, our pneumatic tires are tubeless. So there's nothing inside. They just seal on the rim of the wheel. Historically, tires used to have an inner tube. So they were tubed tires where they had an inner tube. And then you would, the way they would mount the tire, so you would have the wheel, the tube would go in with the tire, and then you would just use a rim that to hold everything, and you would just use a mallet and kind of tap that rim on. So a lot of people took the name rim from the rim on the wheel to describe the wheel. But this is a wheel. This is the beadlock rim on the beadlock wheel, and this is your tire. So tires are not the wheel. This is your tire. All right, that aside, these are non-directional, so it's not going to matter which one goes where. You can tell based on the pattern, and if they're directional, they generally have a little arrow, and they'll say rotation, or they'll have just an arrow. It can go on either side. So that being said, let's go ahead and mount them. Something else very important too is the nuts that you want to use. You want to make sure you use high quality serrated nuts, such as these here. These are actually Traxxas serrated nut. Use these. The ones that come stock on the Slash are worthless. They are not very good, and your wheel is going to come loose. One of them always comes loose. So here we go. High quality serrated nuts. These are beautiful blue color. They make some in other colors as well. The other thing that is very important too is your hexes here. You're going to be running some massive power. These hexes, get the aluminum ones. If you get the plastic ones will start to warp and give out. And then there's going to be some play between your wheel and hard acceleration. It's going to destroy your wheel hub, this little section here. So keep that in mind as well. I'll be honest, at some point, I'm sure my buddy's probably going to break his axles right here, or his drive shafts, those shafts. He's going to have to replace those, but for now, we're going to try it out and see how these hold up. Hopefully they hold for a few rounds, and then we'll have an update on what else you need. But just for the basics, and again, this doesn't have to run on 6S. He just loves 6S. I think 4S is more than enough. My opinion, his opinion. Which is the correct one? Well, his is probably more fun if you want to see things blow up. But you can run this on 2S and it'll be fine. But anyway, this is it. I mean, this is what it looks like, and this is super cool looking. I mean, this here just has these fatty rear tires, short course fronts. You still have that drag style look to a point, right? It's a monster drag truck with the short course wheels in the front, makes them thinner, and the fatty tires in the rear. So this is the class. This is what we're gonna start running instead of regular drag cars. Just to do a comparison, right? This would be the drag car. So same chassis, everything. The difference is this is using a Slash LCG, so the center's the same. Slash body mounts. This is using Proline. I mean, I could just swap Proline over here. This has GTR rears, but it has the stock fronts versus these. And the reason why is this one is sometimes going to see some bashing. This one is not, so we don't need big shocks or reinforced shocks in the front. But this is running the Bandit arms and links. This is running the Slash arms and links. So if you have a Slash, this is the easiest way to create a drag vehicle. You don't have to replace the arms or the links. They're already there. But that's it. Notice Savok servo as well. Actually, I think it's the same servo. Nope, this 1258, this one has a 1257. Either way, it's overkill for both of the vehicles. You don't need anything this strong for a drag car. That is one of the differences. And the wheelie bar will also be a difference. And we still have to mount a wheelie bar on this one, but he wants the Traxxas wheelie bar. So I'm going to show you what that is. Let me show you the side view first. So monster drag versus drag car. So that's one of the differences too in the wheels. Monster drag, I mean, it just looks awesome. This over here does. But anyway, that's something to keep in mind. And by the way, here I ran 4S and I actually destroyed the clutch. So that's why I'm sure he's going to destroy the clutch on this one. But it'll be fun. We'll see. If he doesn't destroy the clutch, he'll probably destroy the lay shaft that's in there, in the transmission. So really quick, clutch. This is a regular clutch. This is what can happen to your clutch. And this is the lay shaft. So if your transmission makes a winding sound like a and the car kind of stalls, sometimes maybe moves forward, but you hear things spinning, this roll pin probably broke off, that little tiny thing. So you have to replace the whole lay shaft unless you can find a roll pin that's that size. I've actually drilled these out and used one of the wheel pins in there. It works. It's not a perfect fit, but it works. That's a different video. So that being said, I love it. This is good. So we had two options. One of the options is to take this HR Racing. It's not zooming in. Anyway, this is made for the e-Revo and the Revo Slayer Summit. So for those, but the plate doesn't fit. You would have to cut this, and then this would just screw on to the back. So you will have to do some drilling. But instead, what we're going to do is we're going to install this. This is the one that's generally for the Slash Bandit Rustler. If you can see the number there, there we go, 3678X. X is just the color because it's color blue. If you change the rear letter, it'll give you a different color. If you just take out the rear letter, it'll give you the black one. I forget what the green is. It's probably G. But we may end up swapping these wheels in the back because these are a larger diameter. So we're going to see. So for this here, we are going to have to make a modification. Again, a monster drag truck like this uses a 40 millimeter diameter motor. So if you're running a Castle system, you're going to be running either a 1512 or a 1515. If you're running, for example, Tiken motors, you will be running their T8 series motors. Alright, so here we have the sway bar. So the sway bars, it is adjustable. I'm not going to mess with it. And the way it works is you see these two little things. These are just clips. So this will just clip off, and then you can just clip on there, there, or there. So this is an adjustable sway bar. But first we need to install it. And then after we install it, we're going to see where we want these placed. So that's the lowest setting, or if we want to bring this high, this is going to go in like this. Just goes in the rear, but as you can already see, we have a bit of a problem because of this massive can. So I'm going to have to remove materials so that this can slide in. And to be honest, it's not going to slide in, it's just going to be here. So we're going to keep the C channel, because it looks like a C channel. On the right side, over here, we're just going to end up with an L. So I'm going to shave off all of this top material. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick, and then I will be right back. Alright, so this plastic is actually pretty soft. I was going to get a rotary tool out, you know, like a Dremel, but this blade just cuts right into the plastic. So you can just use a blade. Now, if you're a child, have an adult do this. Don't do it by yourself. You don't want to cut yourself. The other thing too is I keep emphasizing, use a sharp blade. Some of you are probably looking like, oh my God, you're going to cut your hand. No, I'm not going to cut my hand. So I'm just slowly going in. This blade is nice and sharp, so I'm actually not applying that much pressure to that little section, and that's why you want a very sharp blade. That way you don't have to apply that much pressure, so you run a lower risk of slipping, sliding, and then cutting yourself. All right, so now I just need to cut that portion there. And that is it. All right, let's mock this up. Oh, that fits nicely. That fits nicely. All right, so let me show you. See? So all we had to do is just remove this material up here, and that is it. So it's now an L instead of a C. All right, so here, let me just cover that up. It's easier to see. So this is now an L versus a C channel. And then this just goes in, and that is it. So there we go. So here at Telecomando RC, Telecomando RC. There we go. That's nicer. We are creating a new class, which is a drag monster truck class. Perfect. So let me just put the other items. You could use a longer wheelie bar, but this is going to be really cool because just the way the trucks are going to wheelie. Well, let me take the hardware out that came included. Here it is. All right. So now the screws that you're going to need. So this will be screwed on. Now normally the stock transmission would have plastic here, so we need a screw there, and there's another screw that goes up here. So on this one, right, there's a hole there, and then there's a hole over here. Now the only thing that we received normally with the factory one, you would get 2 screws. Sorry, 3, but they would all go into the transmission case. So right, one goes in one way, the other one goes in the other, and then you get a long one, as you can see. So this one's going to fit here. Just on the top, we're only going to be able to use one. That's sort of the downside. I mean, we could open this one up, maybe use one of these little adapters and place it in there. That's a possibility. Let me try it out. I don't think he will mind if I open this up. Again, you don't need to, but he happens to have the hardware here, so I figured why not. All these, oh yeah, I can use those spacers there. And on the top, well, we'll worry about that one later. Let's just use the knife. Alright, perfect. Use this and that. See, these look to be just regular bushings. There is no threads, so it has no threads. I think 2 of these would work here. Yep, 2 of them would work there. Right, is this one long enough to go all the way? That's the problem. Unless, let's see, if I use the long one over here, would that go all the way through? Yeah, this one would go all the way through. So I'm going to use the long one on the top, because this one can go all the way through. And these bushings will just go there. Alright. So let's go back to this one. Oh, great. I strongly dislike Phillips heads. Yeah. Alright, well, let me get a Phillips screwdriver. I think the only thing worse than a Phillips head is a flat head. I mean, even if they use constructor screws, it would be better. Alright, so this one can go here. not quite. This thing isn't threading all the way. Let me try threading it off of the vehicle. Nope. Well, that's a bigger challenge than expected. And you have to use this one somewhere else. Okay, let's try this. Line it up there. Alright. Alright, I've actually decided not to use the Traxxas one, and the reason why is with this transmission there's really just one solid point to mount, which is this one. So this one's not going to work. I'm actually going to use this one here, which is the one for the e-Revo. So that being said, all this stuff's going to go in the bag. And I'm going to go over the modifications that I'm about to perform with you. Alright. Bag. Perfect. So this is generally for e-Revos, Summits. What I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to cut this. Well, I can straighten it out or cut it. It's probably going to be easier for me to just cut it. And I'm going to make 2 new holes for these 2 here. And I'm just going to slide this in. So I'm going to mount this right in there, which is why I'm cutting this piece out so that these 2 screws can still slide in. So this will actually be a little higher. And then I need 2 little holes there. And I'm going to go over that shortly with you. A few things that you're going to need is just a piece of masking tape. The masking tape just makes it easier to mark where the holes are going to be. So I'm going to measure this, transfer that over to here. Then I'm just going to punch it. It just makes it easier to start drilling. And then I'm going to use a drill bit that's a little smaller, and then the drill bit of the size that I want, and to drill the holes. So that's what I'm going to do. So stay tuned. So really quick, I did measure the distance here and then the distance here, and I lined it up. So I made these little marks. I figured I'd show you before I finish. And then I went through and I punched where the holes are going to be. Right now, I'm actually setting this on a 2x4 and I'm using a hacksaw. The reason why is I just realized I don't have any cutting blades for my angle grinder, which would have made this so much easier. But anyway, here we go. So I'm going to be cutting that off, making those 2 holes, and installing it on here. Alright, so now I've made the cut. So I've actually cut this section here. So now as you can see, I'm rounding the edges off with just a file. So I just need to round that edge, and then I'm going to go into drilling the holes. Now, I am drilling this, but I'm not drilling it here because I don't want the metal shaving. So I'm drilling this right where I can clean them easily. I'm drilling the holes. One important thing is when you're drilling into metal, do not drill fast. Take your time, drill slow. That's a good speed. That is not a good speed. You're going to drill fast if you're drilling timber. But if you're drilling into metal, if you drill fast, you're just going to heat up your bit and you're going to make it dull. So you actually want to drill slow, cool it, put some drops of oil to keep that lubricated and cool so that it cuts better. So when you're drilling metal, you actually drill slow. That's probably the fastest you would be drilling. So just a little note, I'm going to finish drilling this up. Alright, so I am finished. So as you can see, I rounded off the edges. That's the reason why I used the file. I just didn't want anything here that could possibly, poke somebody or cut someone. So now you can touch the edges, everything is safe. The holes are there. And then I just took a file to remove some excess material from drilling. So now I'm just going to go ahead and loosen these up so I can slide this in. And these holes are going to go in there. So this is a 2mm. These I have to remove completely. And these 4 I'm just going to loosen. Now actually, if I remove this whole top part and give this sort of an angle, you can actually change how much anti-squat you have, if you want any. You can also remove anti-squat. Here we go. So I'm just going to loosen this up and loosen this up. And there are 2 screws on top, right where the shock tower mount is. Hoping this will just flex enough. I mean, it should, so I don't have to loosen those up. We'll see. Should work. So let's slide this in. All right. There we go. Is this too thick, too wide? No, actually we're going in. Let's loosen this up a little more. 2.5mm. All right. There we go. And just need to find. Yeah, it'll be easier if I just loosen these 2. All right, there we go. Let's see, oh, there it is. All right, there it is. All right. So one of the things that I'm noticing is this part here. So I'm actually going to have to remove material here because of the transmission mount. So if you see that there, so let me remove that just so I have a good fit, and I'll be back. Alright, so here we go. This is the material I removed right over here. So as you can see, it looked just like this side, so it's the mirror image, so I just have to grind that little section off. I'll show you again. So here we go. So again, I'm just wedging this between the chassis. Oh, that went in smoothly. And that is it. So now I'm just going to put the screws in. So again, I need my 2mm driver for the rear. And then once I put the second screw in, then I'll tighten them up. So here we go. And this you can also line up. So I actually made the holes a little bigger to give it a little bit of play so I can line up the wheelie bar later on. Usually once you run it, that's when you'll know. Alright, perfect. And here we go. So now we just need the 2 screws on top, but there's the wheelie bar. 2mm driver. And one more. Perfect. So there she is. She's all buttoned up. Wheelie bar is there, and it kind of works as a spring too. So this one's actually kind of nice. I'm glad I went with this one. But there is the monster drag truck. The only thing that is left now is to adjust just camber, toe on the tires, camber especially on the rear. But I'm going to wait until I get the body. This is the body that was on it. I could use this just if I raise, I need to lift. See, that would rub. So I need to lift the body off, but actually this would look pretty cool on it if I went with this Proline body on here, which is the original body that was on this truck. So here we go. That's it. So this is our monster truck drag build using a Traxxas Slash platform. Thank you so much for watching.